5 men sprung by the Innocence Project in New York, 5 out of 200. Number 200 walked out 2 weeks ago, a man in Illinois who had spent 25 years of his life for a crime he did not commit. 200 is the tip of the iceberg. We have over 1 million inmates in prison in this country right now. No one knows the exact number of wrongful convictions or actual innocence, but a good guess is between 2 and 5%. The math is easy. The innocence movement is in its infancy. It has inspired 35 chapters around the country. And every chapter is extremely underfunded, understaffed, and in need of young lawyers to volunteer. There are more homeless people in this country today than when you started law school. These are the poorest of the poor. Many are mentally ill, many need medical care and psychiatric care. Many are victims of abusive housing practices and wrongful evictions. When I was 10 years ago, when I was researching the street lawyer, I was hanging around homeless shelters and soup kitchens in Washington, D.C., and I befriended some of the pro bono attorneys from the big firms in D.C. and also some of the homeless clients. In one case, one incident really stands out in my mind. There was a homeless man by the name of Cleveland who looked like a homeless man. He'd been on the streets for a number of years. He was not mentally ill. He was very sharp. His attorney, they matched up the attorneys, was a young hotshot from a big corporate firm in downtown D.C., a 30-year-old lawyer who was on the fast track for partner in greatness, but he was kind of tired of the office and wanted to get his hands dirty. So he volunteered to serve as an advocate for the homeless, and I got to know both of them. We had a meeting one time in which the young lawyer was going to make some phone calls, and Cleveland was tired of meeting in the intake room in the homeless shelter in the basement of an old church in Northeast Washington. Cleveland wanted to go downtown to the big office where his lawyer hung out. And the lawyer said, absolutely. So Cleveland went down. We met downtown, the 5th floor of a gold-plated law firm. You could almost see the White House from our conference room window. And there, with mahogany tables and leather chairs, Cleveland sipped designer water from a very nice piece of crystal. He was very proud of his lawyer. The young attorney had done his homework, and it was time to call the bureaucrat who was holding everything up. He flipped on the speakerphone, and he said, introduced himself, and he said, I am helping Cleveland. The bureaucrat was completely unconcerned. It didn't register. He had no time. He was too busy. The lawyer asked a few more questions. The lawyer had memorized the file. He knew it inside and out. And finally he said, well, look, I'm an attorney with so-and-so firm, and Cleveland is my client. The bureaucrat was at first surprised that Cleveland would have a lawyer, but then when he believed what he heard, everything changed. He suddenly was able to find the file, find information in the file. The lawyer began just hammering him with questions he knew the answers to. And suddenly there was a spirit of cooperation. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's help Cleveland. I talked to a young lawyer later. He spent 7.5 hours on the file. The big firm guys always have to keep up with the hours. And he said in 20 days, he not only had obtained the benefits for Cleveland, but found him a place to live. 7.5 hours. When used properly, your license to practice law is a powerful tool. There are approximately 500,000 migrant workers in this state. We don't know for sure because they're hard to count. Some are here legally, others are not. They are all doing the jobs that we don't want to do, but we want done quickly. Many are subjected to employment practices that are abusive. No pay, low pay, no overtime. A favorite trick now in Northern Virginia with day laborers is to pay them all after 15, 18 hours in the field with void checks. That happens every day in our state. They live in squalid conditions in old apartments and buses and warehouses and even tents. They don't speak English, and they don't realize that in this country there are laws to protect even them. But advocates for migrant workers are few and far between. If you walk in any legal aid office in this state, you will be astounded, first of all, by the amount of work to be done and the scarcity of lawyers to do it. Legal aid is the last line of defense for poor people and those who are weak. And when legal aid fails, when that last line of defense is breached, we are all diminished. Their clients are the clients that nobody else wants. The abused women who need protection, the children who are not being educated, the working families caught in the vice of predatory lenders, juvenile offenders who are released from prison or detention centers with no place to go. These are kids nobody wants. It's a long, sad list of clients for legal aid. We have 125 legal aid lawyers in this state. 500 are needed just to cover the basics. We are lucky to live in this Commonwealth. It's a beautiful state with a vibrant economy, and a lot of folks want to live here. Growth brings its own problems. Sprawl, congestion, pollution, pressure to develop open spaces. When you fight the environmental wars, victories are rare and they are rarely permanent. But there's a strong conservation movement in this state. At the core of it are young lawyers dedicated to preserving this place and passionate about the environment. Now, I'm not suggesting a lifetime of poverty for you folks as you toil away to defend the oppressed. I understand the reality of student loans. And let's be honest, we all chose law school because we thought it would help us, maybe get a head start in the chase for the American dream. I wanted the prestige of being a lawyer and a chance to make money. That's why I went to law school. But your legal education is just beginning. And until you get a good dose of what we call street law, you won't know what it's like to get your hands dirty. Until you use your license and your brains and your enthusiasm and your youthfulness to reach out and to reach down and help someone less fortunate, you will not realize the power the law has to protect people. If my son will listen to me, I'm going to suggest that he work a year in a legal aid office or a public defender's office or maybe even a prosecutor's office or intern with an environmental group. There are many ways to help people. Every law firm at least pays lip service to pro bono work. Some are very serious about it. Every bar association in this country has a pro bono project. There are countless advocacy groups in this country. Just pick one. Pick whatever topic interests you, and you can find a public advocacy group looking for volunteers. When I was a young lawyer in a small town in Mississippi, I did a lot of pro bono work. A lot of those cases did not start off as pro bono cases. I just never got paid. I did a lot of work with indigent criminal defendants, got a lot of trial experience. I enjoyed working with troubled kids. I had volunteers, guardians. And all of my clients worked for $12 an hour. Okay, I couldn't charge them $100 or whatever I was trying to get back then. It was simply, they couldn't pay, and I couldn't say no. And so oftentimes I would say, look, let's just forget about money, okay? Let's call this a pro bono case. You're happy to have a lawyer, and I'm not going to have to worry about getting paid. And looking back, those are the cases I remember. Those are the clients I fondly recall. Those are the moments in my career when I truly felt needed. The rest of the time, I was just one of a million. There are a lot of people out there who need your help. And regardless of where you go to work, there are 100 ways to help them. Go find them, go help them. And in doing so, you will not only feel better about yourself, you'll be a much better lawyer. Thank you and good luck.